Andy Thomas. I am an associate professor with University of Missouri. I'm in the Division of Plant Science, and I'm based way down here in Southwest Missouri at the Southwest Research Extension and Education Center. So it's a big farm of the University of Missouri, and that's where I've been based for rounding up to 30 years now. So, and I became aware of Ozark Land Trust when I lived in St. Louis before I moved here. And then when I came here, Greg Galbraith, who is the founder and at the time the Everything OLT, lives about 30 minutes from here, and we got connected. And I ended up going to a board meeting in probably 1997, and within 3 months I was on the board. So that's kind of how it began from down here. So I'm able to wear, so I work for the university, but I'm able to wear other hats and do good work with the land trust while working down here. So it's been really great. It's interesting that because the majority of my career, my day-to-day job is in agriculture, horticulture, agroforestry, agriculture. My master's degree is in agronomy. But I always have had a very strong passion for conservation and environmental work. So I didn't pursue that as a major career option, but this volunteering and being involved in the land trust has just been great that I can follow those dreams and do some great work with the land trust. So that's been really great. It was a rather challenging time. When I was president, we were transitioning from an all-volunteer organization to a paid staff. So it was fantastic and wonderful. It was challenging, and everything worked out great, and good people made that happen, and it was really good. I mean, the professionalism now is phenomenal. And that's not saying it wasn't professional years ago. We were very professional, but just the level of that is just mind blowing to me. If you look at the board, the accountants and the attorneys that are on the board. So everything, I would never say, things that we did in the past weren't up to par. We did the best we could being all volunteer, but it really is night and day difference, the level of professionalism, just the accounting and the books and the fundraising, the easements themselves, every little detail on the easements. So that's kind of really, it's just a different level of professionalism. Wow. So of course, Woods Prairie has been my baby. I don't live very far from it. Uh, there's a very long story. It just fell into my lap and OLT's lap, and it became a major part of my life and a passion. And I'm very proud to say it wasn't just me. I mean, tons of people, volunteers and donors and people helping to burn. And then we spent 15 years restoring it. And that was a lot of backbreaking, hard work by volunteers. And so, yes. And then, very long story. I don't remember the dates, but it's a very complicated story, but we ended up paying off the mortgage, which is even an even longer story, but everything worked out really well. And then I was able to go to the courthouse and file the papers and everything. So it was that was several years ago now. So and then I've maybe kind of slightly retired from Woods Prairie part. I'm still heavily involved, but maybe I pulled back quite a bit. Another project that is the Sircoxie Cave and Spring, excuse me, that is also not too far from here, and an amazing, unique project. And I'm pretty sure we purchased that around 1997 when I came on the board. And the project it's a fantastic project, but it's had its kind of ups and downs as far as getting where we wanted it to be. and challenging and exciting. And we've, right now it's in a great place. So those are just a couple. There's other, Alfred Forest and Elixir and just Amy's Woods. There's lots of other projects that are kind of really special to me. Gosh, just the rivers, the trees, the birds, and nothing real specific. I, again, I work in agriculture, so I appreciate the agriculture in the Ozarks as well. Nothing specific, I guess, just the Ozarks. Everything comes together. The people, the people are a great part of that. It's interesting because I mean, one of the more recent things is these mitigation banks, where it's kind of complicated, where an entity is somehow permitted to destroy land and or some environment in some way, yet they have to compensate that in another way. And we've done several of these where we were able to put an easement on a piece of property that was well worth protecting. But on the other hand, are we somehow in cahoots with the destruction of that other land? So it's kind of is a thing we struggled with, and I think we continue to struggle with. But I think in most cases, that piece is probably going to be destroyed anyway. And why should we not take advantage of this kind of new idea, these mitigation banks, and protect bats and other, water where we can? So that's pretty interesting. And again, the agriculture thing you mentioned. So that's fairly recent to protect, hundreds of acres of agricultural land. And I think it's extremely important. So those are kind of some newer ideas that have come around. Well, I definitely want to see it grow and become even more professional. Interesting from my perspective. I mean, we do a lot of easements. Conservation easements is most what we do now, and we have thousands of acres of land that we own. And I would like to see more of that. I would like to see us own more land as nature preserves, but be able to manage those in as we would say, with the highest ecological integrity. So that's a goal that maybe, everyone's working really hard but I would like to see that up a notch. If we could, then we would be capable of protecting more lands as nature preserves that we can own. But that requires resources and more work. So that would be a goal of mine in the future to see that part of OLT grow and expand. Where any land we own, there's invasive species and there's weeds and they're fragile and delicate habitats and erosion and this kind of thing. We have caves that have rare species in them, so we have to gate them to keep trespassers from destroying them. So it's just a matter of doing our best to manage what we have in the best way we can. And just as an example, I mean, maybe this is not, I shouldn't say this, but we don't do everything organically. If we need to use a herbicide or some modern tool to accomplish something, I think we will, so that maybe sounds counterintuitive, but if we let Johnson grass go crazy on Woods Prairie, we're in trouble. So anyway, so I just think whatever tools are needed, but we want to be as prudent as we can, and with any of that. That's interesting, and I hate to leave anybody out, but there are people, I like to put it this way, on whose back OLT was built. And many of these are volunteers, and some of them have passed away. So, of course, Greg Galbraith is our founder, and of course, without him, we wouldn't be here. And Abigail Lambert, who's on our staff, she's been on this organization almost as long as I have. So she's done phenomenal work. But there's other people like John Cutler, who has passed away. Uh, I can't say enough about, he was all volunteer. He was on the board. He developed, the beginning of our mapping program and uh, our easement assessment program. There's even a gentleman named Gary Freeman, if he's out there. He did our membership list for years and years. And we may have paid him a little bit, but we know he was losing money, but he did it out of his heart. And we couldn't manage the database on our own. And so there's a lot of people like that who I hate to, leave people out, but uh, that just volunteers and people that did what they could, and then that all came together to allow us to grow into the professional group we are now. So, well, it's a different concept than the Nature Conservancy, Missouri Prairie Foundation. We all have similar goals, but it's just a little different. So the one nice thing is that we're able to be pretty flexible, I guess is the word. And, uh, probably not as flexible as we used to be, but we have a lot of leeway. We have a very supportive board that if an opportunity comes along, maybe we're able to jump on that. And we're really not restricted to, say, prairies or, Nature Conservancy probably wouldn't do an agricultural easement, although they might now. So, but I was going to respond to your earlier question when we got cut off a little bit about the people, I think is where you were going. And especially earlier on in the organization when we were all volunteer, I remember campouts and staying in people's cabins and going on wagon rides and meeting the landowners. I remember one time sitting at a campfire in a circle and just talking about how can we protect land and a lot of those staying overnight in someone's cabin on the river evolved into land protection and evolved into OLT and just by just by the people, meeting people and making those relationships was basically how this group was built. So I don't get out to camp and hang out by the campfire as much anymore with land trust groups, but hopefully some of our staff still does that. It's really, really great. Yes, we have our own goals and ideals, but our job is to work with landowners and facilitate their interest in protecting their land. So yeah, we want to do these various projects, but that's what it's all about is we are kind of a service organization that allows people to protect their land, and that's great. The main thing that I say a lot, so I'm definitely the longest serving board member. So I've been on the board for about 27 years. And then I was president for 4 years. And it's just part of my life. I can't, I feel a lot of responsibility and obligation. And I probably someday should rotate off the board, but I can't. I'm just so, I feel so much responsibility. I mean, I trust the board and I trust everybody. So it's just a passion for me and ask my wife. It's part of my life. I have pulled way back from what I used to do when we were all volunteer. Uh, and then, again, seeing it grow. I touched on this, but I started in around 97 and all volunteers, we had these long board meetings and we didn't have Zoom back then, of course. And great people with great ideas. We had no money, we just had ideas. And then now to have seen this group grow is just so rewarding and mind-blowing. It could, I hate to say it, but it could have gone bust, and it didn't. But because of people and good energy and some fundraising, and so that's really very rewarding to me to have seen that growth and where we are now. So it's great.